Hello again, and welcome to the JD Tumbling YouTube channel, discovering and documenting Northamptonshire's rather fascinating history. I'm here outside the Holy Sepulchre Church in Northampton. It's been here for roughly about 900 years, so it's nearly 1,000 years old. And today we're going to be talking to Eddie, the church warden, who's going to tell us a little bit about the history of the building.
Hello and welcome to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Northampton. My name's Eddie, I'm one of the church wardens here, and this church it dates from 1100 and it is one of the only 4 medieval round churches in the country. The church is based upon the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. This church was built in 1100 by Simon de Senlis. Simon de Senlis had been on the First Crusade in 1096, and when he returned 3 years later, he built this church as a gesture of thanksgiving for his safe return and for returning of Jerusalem to Christendom. As you can see, it is a round church, and there are 8 stone pillars here and an outer wall, and that is the form of the original church as it stood in 1100. Also to the east, there's the area which is the nave, which was the original chancel. It's now our nave. Now there are many changes been made over the centuries, but we can still see traces of the original 1100 church. The most obvious ones, apart from the pillars, obviously in the form of the church, are some small semicircular windows up at the high level. There's two up here, and a high level, and there's one lower one on the south side of the church. There were originally, we believe, two galleries of 12 windows in this form, upper and lower galleries, and there was in fact a triforium, a gallery that ran all the way around, or most of the way around at a higher level, and these higher windows would have lit that. This gallery disappeared sometime in the 14th century. The church has undergone many changes, as I said, over the centuries, even quite early on in its life. For instance, we have the north door over here, which was built introduced in the 12th century, and we can see above it the remains of one of the original arch windows. So that was blanked off.
You can see that in the brickwork.
Yeah, and the door was inserted. Also quite interesting is this window just here, which is built on the skew, and that was to shed light on the doorway of someone who's walking into the church. That's facing west, so it would have lit the inside of the church in the afternoons and early evenings. The 3 large windows, we've got one here on the north side and another 2 on the south side. These were introduced into the round in the 14th century, around the same time the tower was built. We believe that was built around about 1375. It was funded by an unknown benefactor, or unknown now, the name lost in history. And also around that time, the clerestory would have been extensively remodelled. You can see there are Gothic arches between the pillars. These would originally have been semicircular arches, Norman arches, but at some point, as I say, we understand in the 14th century.
Oh, they're remodelled to be more Gothic.
Yeah, it was remodelled to be more in the contemporary style, I guess. The windows up there aren't original. They originally would have been the arched windows, the same as those original windows we've looked at earlier on. We think that the roof was a lot higher, and the pitch of the roof was steeper to accommodate this upper gallery originally. we're walking up to the nave of the church, which was the original chancel. This was an area of the original church. These two lines of pillars either side of us, they would originally have been external walls, and the chancel would have ended around here. If you look up here, you can see traces again of an original window, and also where the stonework stops, where the new stonework has been built. Everything to the right is in fact Victorian.
Oh, so
Yeah.
all of this area is Victorian.
Yeah, everything to the eastern end of the church is dates from. It was built between 1859 and 1879. The present day chancel was consecrated in 1879.
Oh wow!
So you can, but the more you look at the way the stone, the carved stonework, etc., you can see that it's a much later addition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Of course, it's all still same. Well, they're all still made from the same sort of Northampton sandstone.
Oh yeah, but I think the technology and techniques have come along, and
yeah, no hand quarrying.
That's right. Yeah. There's quite an interesting remains of one window up here. You see where it hasn't been filled in, and that's the original Norman window. And when they pierced the wall with the arch, they just left it. And there are we found, if you can't see it at the moment, we can shine a torch in there, and there's actually traces of paint, because we think that the whole church was painted inside, and there's some traces of painting inside that arch.
My word.
Yeah. At one point, the whole church apparently was painted. It was whitewashed.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So this is the original chancel, and the aisles either side. We've got two on the north and one on the south. These were built in the 12th and 13th century, and the south aisle added in the 14th century.
Yeah, I mean the history does go back literally 1,000 years, and it's constantly being remodelled and reworked and modernised.
There was a period in the 16th century where the church fell into decay rather. The outer north aisle was one version of history would say it was demolished, another version would say that it collapsed. But it was only rebuilt between the 1850s and 1870s. The original arches had in fact been kept, and the wall was just blanked off. But then the arches were broken through and reinstated, and this aisle was rebuilt.
Oh, wow.
So again, everything beyond this wall is all Victorian, under the architect Gilbert Scott, who remodelled the church. Although this window, I believe, was originally where we're standing now, and it was moved outwards when the extension was built. So that's a much older window.
Could be old.
Yeah.
Well, the Victorians never did like to. If it was broke, don't fix it. I think that's pretty much the motto. But that's really nice to see that was saved in the remodelling.
I'm jumping backwards and forwards in history a bit here, but
that's okay.
In 1680, the church was, as I say, was in a fairly poor state, and
so that would have been post Civil War and post the Great Fire.
That's right. Yeah.
I think the whole town was in a state.
But in 1680 there was an episcopal visitation to the church. Because it was in such a ruinous state, and a lot of orders were made for work to be done, and amongst other things, there was an order that the church should obtain a large chest for the containment of the minister's ornaments and books, etc. And that's the chest there.
Oh,
so that dates from 1680.
1680. Yeah. Wow.
So it's in a bit of a poor state now. I don't know where the keys are for the locks. So there should actually be 3 locks. There's two on it. But
Oh, that's incredible.
what happened to those keys, I don't know.
Well, it was quite a long time ago.
It
I
is, yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if they were lost.
So that's the church warden's chest.
Fascinating.
Now the church has closely involved with the military, with the Northamptonshire Regiment, as the barracks, the original Northamptonshire Regiment barracks, are within the parish, down
That'd be
on
Barrack
Barrack
Road.
Road.
Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely going to edit that out.
yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of there's a monument to people who founded the regiment, the Kerrs. There's William Kerr, Dr. William Kerr, who was instrumental in founding the new infirmary, or the general hospital.
Oh yes.
Which is up here, and you can probably just about make it out. There's a picture of it. It's pictures there. Yeah. And his son was the person who founded the actual Northamptonshire Regiment. There we are, son of William Kerr. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Now, most of the stained glass we have in the church is monuments installed by the Northamptonshire Regiment to commemorate various campaigns that were involved in, and also we have these brass plaques which are well worth having a look at, listing the names of men that they lost in those campaigns.
Actually, yeah, you can see the stained glass window. War, peace, victory.
Yes, yeah. And you'll see if it'll say underneath, like this one. This is the South Africa War, Northamptonshire Regiment. This plaque gives the names of men who were lost in that war. But interestingly, this one, you look at the number of people, number of men who were killed in action, and then ones who died. Now they died, but they weren't killed in action.
Presumably from disease.
From disease, yeah. And then we've got two at the bottom who were accidentally shot, which is awful, isn't it? And yeah,
that is awful.
Yeah.
Men of the 2nd Battalion, Northamptonshire Regiment. Incredible bits of history.
This is the St George's Chapel, as we call it, the Soldiers' Chapel, dedicated to the Northamptonshire Regiment. We have 2 remaining regimental colours here, which are the only 2 remaining. The other ones used to hang up in the chancel, but they decayed so much that they had to be removed, and they're now buried under the stone here in front of the altar.
Oh. Wow. Yes, it really is fascinating.
We've got the Book of Remembrance here. As I understand, when the barracks are functioning every day, the best man at drill each day would march down to the church, come in here, and turn a page of the Book of Remembrance.
Okay.
That was something they did every day. And this is a picture showing
turning a page.
Yeah. I'm reliably informed that soldier's name is Jack Russell. Yeah. Well, John Russell, I think Jackson.
Yeah, it's not like my pap. He was John, but everyone called him Jack.
Yeah. And this window was actually donated by the Reverend F.S. Thornton in 1887. It's in memory of him and his wife Emily, of their infant daughter. It's depicted on the left-hand side there. On the right-hand side, his 3 sons are depicted. You see the 3 boys who look slightly out of place in a biblical scene because they're Victorian children. So that was donated, and it was also the Reverend Thornton who donated these screens either side of the chancel, these carved screens.
Yeah.
Some 7 years before that, as a token of thanksgiving, because his wife had recovered from a very serious illness, and that was why those screens were put up. They do have musicians. If you walk through to the chancel, you can see these carved musicians. Some of whom have their instruments missing, and I think this is people, members of the choir over the years have pinched the instruments. I don't know, but there's a missing flute there, and there's something there, and there's another one over here. I think he's playing the violin, but he's got no violin, so he's playing the air violin. What else we got in here? We've got a Bible that's got a date in the front of it. That's 1635, I think. That's the date on that.
That's upside down.
Yep. As you can see, generally the stone carving is far more ornate up here. But yeah, as I say, this chancel dates from 1879. Up here, this stained glass window on the right, we have Simon de Senlis, the builder of the church, holding a model of the church in his hands. Yeah. And also Joseph of Arimathea with the Holy Grail, which one particular myth will tell you, or legend will tell you, that the Holy Grail is buried somewhere beneath this church. Some people believe that it is.
Well,
others say the popular story is Glastonbury, isn't it?
Glastonbury. Yeah. I think there was one in Scotland.
Yeah.
But there's certainly a lot of rumours about where the Holy Grail is. But if the Holy Grail is in Northampton, that would certainly be very, very interesting.
It would, wouldn't it? Perhaps it's a myth put around by the Northampton Tourist Board. I don't know.
It could be. It could well be. Or perhaps it's beneath our feet.
Perhaps it is. Yeah. This is the so we've been earlier on the Becket Chapel. I've been dedicated to Thomas Becket. Actually, this north aisle was originally dedicated to Thomas Becket in the late 12th century by Simon de Senlis' son, or de Senlis, Simon II, who was quite devoted to the memory of Thomas Becket, and it would have had obviously before this part of the church was built, it would have had an altar here, and then so this became the Becket Chapel when it was built. Stringer organ. It's quite a significant organ apparently. It's listed as a, I can't remember exactly what, but it's, as organs go, it's quite a significant one. Hasn't played a note for about 20 or so years.
No. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
It really is a pleasure to hear about this gem of Northampton's history. And you do have open days coming up.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we've got open day. The next one we've got coming up is actually November the 9th. What we've been doing is opening every Saturday during the summer, and this is one of the last Saturdays we're doing. I think this is the last Saturday. But we'll be opening from 10 till 2, I think, on the 9th of November, and then once a month in January, February, March, following year.
Excellent. Yeah. So I would highly recommend that people come down, because it is a fascinating building with a wealth of history. Oh, we've barely touched the surface of it, haven't we? So it really is well worth people coming down to visit. Thanks very much for watching this episode on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Please check the comments for links to the Holy Sepulchre website where you can see more about open days and what they do there. A big thank you to Eddie and Sarah. Eddie for showing us around and Sarah for setting everything up. And I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. There should be more content coming out about Northampton and Northamptonshire's really quite fascinating history. Um, very, very soon. Hopefully, the next one will be about the Great Fire of Northampton in 1675. So please like and subscribe and share, obviously, and I'll see you soon.